and welcome tonight. Large crowd of supporters receive Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi as his campaign train arrives in Ibadan. Afenifere leader Pa Ayo Adebanjo maintains stance on rotational presidency. PDP presidential candidate Tompolo Foundation challenges female members of the party to prove their mettle in the electioneering process and deliver their polling units. The president unveils the redesigned naira notes, says exercise will help in tackling corruption, as government says it has recovered $1 billion of looted funds since 2015.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's excess crude account rises above $472,000 as FAC shares over 736 billion naira as October revenue to 3 tiers of government.
On sports news tonight, Spain thrashed Costa Rica 7-0 for their biggest World Cup win ever, which launches their bid to lift a second title.
And in international news from London, officials say they believe a Walmart employee is responsible for killing at least 7 people and injuring many more in a shooting at the US state of Virginia.
All roads led to the Lagos Salami Stadium in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, today, where the campaign train of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, and his running mate, Dr. Dati Ababa Ahmed, made a stopover. Supporters of the candidate and the party turned out in their numbers, waving banners and clad in the party's customized shirts, caps and other paraphernalia. Leader of Afenifere, Pa Ayo Adebanjo, was also present at the rally, where he restated his position on the need for the equity in the governance of the country. Our correspondent, Dari Idowu, reports.
It appears like a day well anticipated by the supporters of the Labour Party. That's what the mood around Lagos Salami Stadium suggests. Tight security at the gate, everyone goes through the rigor. Party chieftains and those contesting under the party's platform in the southwest are also here. They all wait for the arrival of the party's flag bearer, Mr. Peter Obi. At about 3:30 p.m., the chopper conveying the presidential candidate lands at the venue with his supporters on hand to welcome him. The leader of the Pan-Yoruba Social-Cultural Group, Afenifere Pa Ayo Adebanjo, is also here to lend his support as he maintains his stance on rotational presidency, among other issues.
Is it fair for another Yoruba man to fight for the presidency after Chief Olusegun Obasanjo and Goodluck Jonathan? What about the Igbo people? Aren't they Nigerians too? It's the turn of the Igbo people to be president.
The vice presidential candidate, Dr. Yusuf Dati Daba Ahmed, speak on what their party represents.
That is giving Nigerians hope. The name is Peter Obi. I most respectfully and warmly greet you. I bring greetings to you from all over Nigeria. From Ilorin to Sokoto, to Borno, to Adamawa, all their greetings here in Ibadan.
And here comes the time everyone has been waiting for. The presidential candidate says equity and justice will renew people's hope.
The government we tend to form will be beginning of building a new Nigeria. It will be beginning of building a Nigeria where Nigerians will be proud and say, we are Nigerians. Because we will secure and unite Nigeria. Ibadan is a great city where we have famous university, famous
2023 election is less than 100 days away, and as political parties intensify their campaign activities, traversing the length and breadth of the country, the Labour Party, in its drive to create an upset, is promising a turnaround of the current situation in the country. Dari Idowu, Channels Television News.
Still in the southwest, this time in Ondo State, some members of the All Progressives Congress have staged a solidarity walk for the party's presidential candidate, Bola Tinubu, in Akure, the state capital. The party leaders and supporters believe their candidates will transform the country if elected in the 2023 presidential election.
These are the supporters of the All Progressives Congress, APC, from the Ondo East and West in a solidarity walk for Asiwaju Tinubu's presidential bid. The rally took off from the popular Akure Motor Park in Ondo City, headquarters of Ondo West local government area. The solidarity walk is symbolic of the party ahead of next year's election.
So we're looking for a president that will be able to manage this 19 trillion, not a governor that has only been able to manage only 50 billion. We are looking for a president that will be able to manage the oil sector and the non-oil sector natural resources. And we find it in Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You can see the people of Ondo Kingdom, they believe in his candidate. The people of Ondo Kingdom believe in what APC has done and what APC will still do in the coming years. And more importantly, I am not just a believer. I am convinced, having been part of a government that has tried to run in Lagos.
They walked through major streets asking the residents to vote for their candidate. Some of the participants expressed confidence of winning the presidential election.
This is a walk of victory because we are extremely certain that we will be victorious. So we have called on our people, we have called on people from Ondo East and West to join us to vote for the APC come the general election. And we have no doubt, having regard to anyone that has come out this afternoon, that victory is certain.
We are having over 40,000 people who are outside in Ondo Kingdom. And mind you, today is just a working day. But you can see what people is doing. Even almost 50% of the people, they are already at work. But you can see people that are here now. So we are ready for Jagaba. We are ready for Atiwaju. So you can see it. Every one of us knew what Tinubu have done, how Tinubu liberate Lagos as a whole.
With this massive turnout for Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the APC at this walk, they believe if he wins the election, he'll transform the country with renewed hope.
Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, is challenging female members to deliver their units if they want to be relevant in his government. The former vice president threw the challenge at the inauguration of the PDP Women Campaign Council in Abuja. He said the party wants the women to be actively involved in the electioneering process and help the PDP identify talents among them who will be part of his administration if he wins next year.
Our main objective of setting up the Women Campaign Council is to make sure of your active participation. And by your active participation, we will be able to identify the talents that are available amongst you. So PDP women, I am challenging you to provide that leadership. But the only way you can provide that leadership is to make sure that you give your 100% support to the party. It is not mere ceremony of inaugurating this campaign council. I want to see a situation from day one, after this inauguration, a meeting of the Women Campaign Council. and a strategy session of the Women Campaign Council, so that, as the PDP has outlined, if you want to be relevant, deliver your unit. And I believe you can.
Staying with electoral matters, the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Ms. Katrina Lang, and the Commonwealth Pre-Election Mission in Nigeria are calling on political parties in the electoral umpire to ensure that next year's elections are peaceful and credible. Speaking at a meeting with the National Working Committee of the PDP in Abuja, Ms. Lang says the United Kingdom will not hesitate to impose sanctions on any individual or group that commits electoral violence. At a separate meeting with the INEC leadership, the UK mission emphasized the need for Nigeria to get it right with the elections.
The British High Commissioner to Nigeria is leading a delegation to this meeting with the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. It is one of the series of meetings with political parties by the British envoy, and the objective is to encourage politicians to ensure violence-free and credible elections in 2023.
And on that point about electoral violence, the UK made a statement at the last election, and we repeat that as well as lots of positive support for elections, we do have sanctions as well in the form of our visa programme. And we'll be watching closely any individual who acts violently or indeed just incites violence, for example, on social media. We do have the possibility of using our visas as a sanction, i.e. removing people's right to visit the UK.
Meanwhile, the leadership of the PDP says they're committed to peaceful elections.
It is not going to be business as usual, and that is why we are keep praying to INEC to maintain what they have promised Nigerians, that the election is going to be very free, fair, and credible. Once that is done, you'll find out that our party is in top gear.
At a separate event, the Commonwealth Pre-Election Mission to Nigeria meets with the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to assess preparations for the 2023 general elections. But the INEC chairman assures the international community that the commission will deliver credible polls come 2023.
We want to assure the international community that Nigeria will not let you down. Polling unit level results will be uploaded in real time, and the integrity of the process will be upheld. The 2023 general election is going to be our best ever elections. We are committed, and that the votes cast by Nigerians will determine the outcome of elections, nothing more, nothing less.
It's less than 100 days to the 2023 general elections, the outcome of which many believe will define the future of the country for the next 4 years. It's important that the conduct be peaceful to further entrench Nigeria's growing democracy.
In part two, after the break, the president unveils the redesigned naira notes as government says it has recovered $1 billion of looted funds since 2015. That's in a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Large crowd of supporters received Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi as his campaign train arrives in Ibadan. Afenifere leader Pa Ayo Adebanjo maintains stance on rotational presidency. PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar challenges female members of the party to prove their mettle in the electioneering process and deliver their polling units. The president unveils the redesigned naira notes, says exercise will help in tackling corruption, as government says it has recovered $1 billion of looted funds since 2015. And officials say a Walmart employee may have been responsible for killing at least 6 people and injuring many more in the U.S. state of Virginia. The redesigned 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes are now legal tender following their unveiling today by the President in the Council Chamber of the State House. During the ceremony, President Muhammadu Buhari said the exercise will help the country address the issue of illicit financial flows, corruption. It will help improve the economy. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, reports.
After weeks of debates and mixed reactions following the announcement by the Central Bank of Nigeria to redesign the naira notes, President Muhammadu Buhari finally unveils the new notes at the State House. Officials of the Apex Bank, the Nigerian Security Minting and Printing, where the new notes were produced, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and cabinet members witnessed the unveiling, which was originally slated for December 15. The president explains the motive behind his October approval of the new banknotes after a 19-year hiatus.
There was an urgent need to take control of currency in circulation and to address the hoarding of naira banknotes outside the banking system, the shortage of clean and fit banknotes in circulation, and the increase in counterfeiting of high-denomination naira banknotes. It is on this basis that I gave my approval for the redesign of the 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira banknotes. While this may not be apparent to many Nigerians, only 4 out of the 54 African countries printed their currencies in their countries, and Nigeria is one.
After the brief ceremony, the CBN governor addresses the media, debunking claims that the unveiling was to target some Nigerians.
In the past, I have to confess that attempts by the Central Bank of Nigeria to redesign and reissue currencies have been resisted. And I want to see this opportunity to appeal to members of the public that there is no need for any insinuations giving the impression that this is targeted at any individual. There is no attempt at that. We're doing our work, and we would continue to do our work.
The CBN governor who approached the president early in the year for approval to redesign the notes is unperturbed about issues of counterfeiting or sabotage.
Following the redesign and issuance of this note, we would go forward to insisting that cashless will be nationwide. We will restrict the volume of cash that people will withdraw over the counter. If you need to draw large volumes of cash, you will fill uncountable forms. We will take your data, whether it's your BVN, your NIN, so that security agencies like EFCC or enforcement agencies like EFCC and ICPC can follow you and be sure that you are taking that money for good purpose.
The newly unveiled banknotes apparently varies in colors. We have them in blue, green and red, but not necessarily in texture. The CBN governor, who reiterates that the January 31 deadline to dispose of all old notes remains sacrosanct, is assuring that these new notes come with improved durability and security. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the federal government says $1 billion has so far been recovered of the funds looted from the nation's treasury since 2015. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, made this known today after the Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House. He also said the federal government is worried about recurrent cases of budget padding, asserting that necessary measures will be explored to tackle it.
If you are looking at it from other perspectives, for example, perspectives relating to the recovery of the looted assets, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari has succeeded in recovering around $1 billion from its inception to date. So today, the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation presented a council memo seeking approval of the council for the validation, adoption, and the extension of the National Anti-Corruption Strategy document from 2022 to 2026. I am happy to report that The memo was taken, deliberated upon, and eventually approved by the Council, the implication of which is that we now have in place a new anti-corruption strategy policy document, which is a product of collaboration, consensus among the justice sector and law enforcement agencies.
President Muhammadu Buhari has nominated Mrs. Loretta Onochie as substantive chairman of the NDDC board and 14 others as members. The list of nominees is contained in a letter sent by the President to the Senate and read by Senate President Ahmed Lawan during today's plenary session. Other nominees include Dr. Samuel Ibukun as Managing Director, General Charles Ahiabere as Executive Director, Finance, and Charles Ogumola as Executive Director, Projects. The President also nominated representatives from Abia, Akwa Ibom, Edo, Ondo, Imo, and River States, as well as zonal representatives from the Northeast, Northwest, and North Central. The President is asking the upper chamber to confirm the appointment of the nominees. It is the second time the President is forwarding a list of nominees for the NDDC board for confirmation. The first list was sent in 2021, and the Senate screened and confirmed the nominees. However, according to Ahmed Lawan, President Buhari made a U-turn on the nominees, explaining that there was a flaw in the compilation. This, he says, explains the President's decision to send another list of nominees for confirmation for the NDDC. Legal luminary Chief Afe Babalola has condemned the recent impeachment of Mr. Gboyega Aribishogun as Ekiti State House of Assembly Speaker, describing it as an act of lawlessness. The elder statesman, in a chat with journalists at the Afe Babalola University, Ado Ekiti, said the impeached speaker was not allowed to defend the allegations against him.
My learning teaches me that there must be fair hearing and there must be full compliance with rule of law. You cannot impeach somebody unless he has committed an offense. In other words, he has done something wrong. And that must be brought to the notice of the person you want to remove. At what stage was any alleged offense given to the latest, the man who was elected? So much so that it was removed overnight. It's a clear case of breach of the law. I have spoken to the new governor, I've spoken to the man elected properly, and I called all of them to a meeting, find a way out. But if there is no way out peacefully, then of course there will be an action filed in the court of law. And I can assure you that between now and the next few days, a few hours rather, there will be a seriously worded press release by the leading lawyers in Ekiti.
And Chief Babalola's comment was indeed followed by a strongly worded press statement coming almost immediately after his comments, signed by the prominent legal minds and senior advocates of Nigeria, including Chief Olanipekun and Mr. Femi Falana. They described the impeachment of Mr. Aribishogun as a constitutional and democratic rascality. According to them, Mr. Aribishogun was not allowed to function in the office for one day before the sealing off of the complex by the police and his eventual impeachment. This, they maintain, is against the Constitution, which states that the Speaker shall continue to be in office during the lifespan of the particular House, except removed from office by the votes of not less than 2/3 majority of the House. They wondered when the impeached Speaker committed the purported infractions to warrant his removal from office. They therefore called on the members of the Ekiti Assembly to return to the path of peace, honor, and dignity by allowing Mr. Aribishogun to continue in office without let or hindrance. In Rivers State, the judiciary has declared open the 2022 to 2023 legal year, with the chief judge of the state giving accelerated hearing to long-pending cases. During a special court session in Port Harcourt, the chief judge, Justice Simeon Amadi, called on judicial officers to build on the gains recorded under his watch, alongside the ongoing policy reforms and infrastructure development by the state government. The event was an opportunity for members of the judiciary to commend Governor Nyesom Wike on his interventions in the sector.
SAN, former Attorney General of the Federation.
It's a full hall at the ceremonial court of the Chief Judge of Rivers State as the State Judiciary holds a special court session to usher in the 2022-2023 legal year in Port Harcourt. Several guests in attendance include judges, lawyers, the State's Attorney General, Speaker of the State Assembly, and some members of the State Executive Council, led by its head, Nyesom Wike, a life bencher. Also in attendance are the Chief Judge of Bayelsa State and retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Mary Odili.
The in-house need for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. The move is born out of a desire.
And as the new judicial calendar is unveiled, suggestions are preferred on how to improve the justice system in Rivers State and protect the sanctity of the court.
One of my abiding suggestions has been that more men and more women should be put to the job. The more judges and magistrates we have, the more judges and magistrates there will be to hear and dispose of the pending cases before the courts.
Historically, the legal year opening ceremony, which dates back to the Middle Ages, is a solemn occasion at which members of the bench and bar not only reaffirm their unwavering commitment to that effective, efficient, and speedy administration of justice within their jurisdiction, but also identify impediments to the administration of justice.
Despite the challenges, the 9th Chief Judge of Rivers State says his administration has adopted measures out of the 6,932 cases filed at the High Court, with similar progress made in other courts. There is also an increase in the amount of revenues realized by the various courts.
This special court session provides occasion for stock taking, self-examination, and exposition of the problems, progress, achievements, and plan for the future in the judiciary constitutional duty in the administration of justice to all and sundry in Rivers State and Nigeria.
In his goodwill message, Governor Nyesom Wike highlights his many interventions for the judiciary in the state, which he says makes it independent.
Our first task was to revive the judiciary and ensure the speedy administration of justice. Without wasting time, after the oath of office, I announced the appointment of the Zokocha as the acting chief judge of Rivers State.
As the new legal year starts in Rivers State, the Chief Judge is expecting judges to give accelerated hearing to long-pending matters, and criminal cases to help improve on the goals achieved.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's excess crude account rises above $472,000 as FAC shares over 736 billion naira October revenue to the 3 tiers of government. We'll have details in business news. Stay with us. Welcome back. Your award-winning Channels Television has received yet another recognition for its work, not just in the country, but on the global scene. Chairman, CEO of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momoh, has received an Integrity Leadership Award by the Africa Advancement Forum for the station's commitment to the continent's development in professional broadcasts and impeccable standard of excellence. Representing Dr. Momoh at this event, the station's Assistant General Manager, Operations, Mr. Kingsley Uranta, says Channels Television will continue to push the frontiers in the broadcast industry to ensure that Nigeria and the rest of Africa is projected in positive light.
Yes, we can make a difference. Yes.
The Africa Advancement Forum Global Summit holds its first convention in Nigeria, in Lagos. The event is organized to sensitize Nigerians on becoming instrumental to bringing about the change that is desired in the nation and continent at large. Driving the discussion around change, a panel of Nigerian leaders and representatives discuss how they are able to bring about positive change amidst challenges they face as leaders and the various methods they employ in tackling them.
When we talk about transformational leadership, it is not about the individual, it's about the institutions. Now, until the institutions are strengthened, it will be soldier go, soldier come, and you will never be able to sustain any transformation. So what we need to start seeing and demanding from our leaders is not to follow the job description. The job description is our expectation. This is what we expect you to do. And then once you have done that, once you burn the drugs and then you get our taxes up, that is our expectations. We should be able to begin to look at them and begin to demand from them, what are they doing about building capacity?
Ambassador Barrister Derek. To honor the selected leaders, the awardees are called to the stage.
For the champions, for the champions. Here we go, it's getting close.
The chairman and CEO of Channels Media Group, Mr. John Momo, who is represented by the station's Assistant General Manager of Operations, Kingsley Oranta, receives the award for integrity in leadership.
Champions, for the champions, stand up.
This award is yet another shot in the arm, for him to continue to provide inspirational leadership, which indeed is encapsulated in the way he has led Channels Media Group to become a thoroughbred professional media group. Not a flight of fancy, but one that is sure-footed to ensure that we continue to project Africa, leadership, Nigeria to the world. And of course, he believes also that excellence is not the end of the game. Excellence is actually the starting point. So with this, he will continue to push the frontiers until we get to the promised land.
Some award recipients and their representatives speak on the importance of the forum.
We are happy to see that people are actually eager for change in the country. And of course, this has enlightened people to say, okay, go get your PVC and look at what 2023 is holding up for us and vote. Vote the people of your choice and be the change that you want in the country.
We felt it was important to put a little more spotlight on the kind of leaders Nigeria and Africa should actually look out for and prepare for.
Africans across the globe believe in the promise of the continent to become a true representation of its people and a harbor for positive leadership. The emergence of the Africa Advancement Forum puts this belief at the forefront of the minds of the people and drives them into positive action towards effecting the desired change.
The Tompolo Foundation has donated relief materials to victims of the recent flood disaster in Delta, Bayelsa, and in Rivers States. The relief materials, worth 150 million naira, were donated by government Ekpemopolo through the Tompolo Foundation and handed over to the victims through their representatives in Warri, Delta State. This, according to the foundation, will help ease their suffering and cushion devastation caused by the flood.
Bags of rice, beans, garri, gallons of palm oil and groundnut oil, cartons of noodles are part of the many food items ready for onward distribution to flood victims spread across the Ijaw, Urobo, Isoko, Ndokwa, and other ethnic nationalities in the three benefiting states of Delta, Bayelsa, and Rivers. In a brief ceremony, Mr. Government Ekpemopolo, better known as Tompolo, represented by the Executive Secretary of the Tompolo Foundation, Dr. Paul Bebenimibo, gives a breakdown of the relief materials, maintaining that the items will be distributed without discrimination.
For River State, the items will be going to Aoda West and Aoda East local government area, where the flood impact was great. About 600 bags of rice is going to Bayelsa State, and other items follow. Most of these flood victims were in camps, and that is not just all. The people are going to go back to their various homes, and today their homes are empty. So these items will go a long way to keep them, to survive them in their various homes until other donations will come their way. To the rep of Bayelsa State.
The food items are then officially given to representatives from the various states for distribution to the beneficiaries.
people of Bayelsa are so delighted, and I'm so happy that I'm counted among those who were present and who had the privilege of representing His Excellency Senator Doyediri, the Governor of Bayelsa State, to receive these flood items, these palliatives.
Tompolo is not just a leader in his land, he's a leader as far as this state is concerned. That is why he's so magnanimous to extend the hand of fellowship of his foundation to the people of Urobo, the people of Isoko, the people of Udokwa, and other ethnic nationality.
The Tompolo Foundation was established 10 years ago to care for the less privileged. In 2012, when this type of flooding occurred, the foundation also provided palliatives to victims, a gesture they hope will go a long way to reduce the sufferings as they return to their homes to start afresh now that the floods have receded.
To health matters now, a 15-bed intensive care unit provided and equipped by the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Company Limited has been inaugurated at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital in Benin City, Edo State. The ICU, according to the NLNG, is part of efforts by the company to reach out and be of help to Nigerians.
The University of Benin Teaching Hospital, UBTH, is a major healthcare institution in this part of the country. Sitting here are stakeholders in the health sector as they await the unveiling of the new intensive care unit.
Yes, Professor Ray Ozowa is also standing in for her.
The hospital prior to this initiative had a 7-bed intensive care unit, barely enough for the traffic of patients who are in dire need of it. The Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Company Limited, NLNG, has come to the rescue with a 15-bed state-of-the-art intensive care unit, ICU.
Praise the Lord.
Why did the NLNG commit to this route in trying to reach the masses?
We had gotten approval from the board of NLNG, our board, to intervene in the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria, working with teaching hospitals where we believe, one, lots of students or doctors who are learning to deliver healthcare at the primary level, and 2, where opportunities are being identified to intervene. So our involvement in this scheme is to ensure that there is quality healthcare available to Nigerians at the level where we have teaching hospitals in the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. So in terms of costs, it's $500,000 to every university in the geopolitical zones that I've identified, and a total of $6 million.
We currently have about 600 patients in our ward.
The Chief Medical Director of the UBTH says patients should cooperate by paying the needed bills when they use the facility.
So it's to also help us educate people on paying the minimum amount that we require. These services are highly subsidized. Even as highly subsidized as they are, people don't want to pay anything. So we can actually let a lot of persons go after taking treatment here. But the issue is that for that service you are getting free and you refuse to pay for, we are compromising the ability to give that service to the next patient. So the first thing is to even be raised enough money from within the service itself to sustain it.
It is hoped that the commitment to keep the new ICU up and running and maintained is followed through by the authorities.
To other company news, against the backdrop of its core belief in the impact and importance of technology in business, Zenith Bank is hosting the 2nd edition of its tech fair, tagged Future Forward 2.0 in Lagos. According to the management of the financial institution, the fair will help engage with modern technologies and give customers across board the opportunity to take advantage of emerging innovations and scale up their business transactions.
As the 21st century progresses, individuals, organizations and governments around the world are looking for new ways to use technology to improve services or meet needs. In Nigeria, creating specific customer experiences that remain relevant is at the core of business integration, and Zenith Bank is working relentlessly to ensure the smooth transition from legacy banking to digital systems at its 2nd tech fair.
We are in the period where there is possibilities every day being created by the use of technology. We are in a period where augmented reality is changing situations. Certainly,
We are in the period where there's a lot of possibility. And indeed, we are happy to, given the applications we are building and putting in place, we are happy to tell people that we have transformed from being a bank to a technology company with a banking license.
The founder shares his expectations from the fair.
I will join the crowd and continue to enjoy the show of the day, the Zenith Tech Fair. That's what I've come for, but not to speak.
The Future Forward 2.0 Tech Fair seeks to provide an avenue for people to learn about, engage with, and take advantage of emerging technologies in order to improve every area of human endeavor.
When we infuse technology into financial services, it changes the dynamic. Banks are not banks anymore. Banks are technology companies that do banking. And this is the big shift. Banks that don't adapt to this technology world are going to have significant problems.
The two-day event will feature presentations, panel discussions, and master classes intended to help participants understand the impact and importance of technology in business, with emphasis on digital transformation in financial services, blockchain technology, cloud readiness, and artificial intelligence.
That takes us to business news. Here's Anne Mawodo.
Thank you, Amarachi. Hello and welcome to Business News. 736.78 billion naira. That's the amount shared as revenue distribution by the Federation Account Allocation Committee, affects the federal, states and local governments. A breakdown of that amount, which is slightly lower than the 760.23 billion naira shared for September, shows that the federal government received 293.95 billion naira, states got 239.512 billion naira, while local government councils received 177.08 billion naira, while 26.22 billion naira was allocated to the oil-producing states as 13% mineral revenue. A total of 165 billion naira has so far been received by the central bank following its call on Nigerians to deposit all old notes currently in circulation before January the 31st, 2023 deadline. Speaking at the post-briefing of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting in Abuja, the Director of Currency at the Central Bank, Mr. Rashid Adam, explains that the figure is far beyond the total receipts it expects 1 month after the announcement was made. The Delta State government has debunked media reports credited to Governor of Rivers State Nyesom Wike that it had collected funds from the federal government without disclosing it to citizens, saying that it had remained committed to transparency and accountability in all its financial dealings on behalf of the people. The Commissioner for Finance, Fidelis Tileje, says that he gave analysis on the debt owed the state government and financial receipts at a press conference in Asaba. The House of Representatives has asked the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank to immediately stop any outstanding payments to its IT manager of the Nigeria Customs Service digital platforms, Web Fontaine, until an investigation of its activities from 2006 to 2022 are completed. Following a motion which detailed the widespread network failure of the equipment of the company at the ports, the House agreed that since the company could not consistently and adequately provide the IT services for operations of the Nigerian customs to block revenue leakages, which it was hired for, the federal government should stop any payment for work not done. Let's head to the market now, where it recorded its most significant single-day gain since November last year. Investors are still extending bargain hunting for high-valued stocks. Jeffrey Uzongo has the details.
Hello and welcome to Stock Market Report. In a surprise move, the domestic stock market soared by a massive 2.90%. The all-share index back to the 46,000 level where it lost in September. And of course, the market capitalization, 25.1 trillion naira, right back right there. And of course, we see that investors intensify the buying interest for high-value equities, which means the bull holds sway. Let's take a look at the activity chart. The volume of value deals all in the green, similar to what happened on Monday and Tuesday. And let's look at what happened on the gainers and losers side of the market. Dangote Cement, these big caps right here. Dangote Cement, 9.98% appreciation. Right here, Buharis Cement, 9.72%. On the flip side of the market, we see that the losers, Royal Exchange, 8.97% loss at the end of the day. Well, let's hope that this momentum continues for the rest of the week. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. It's back to you.
That's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Amarachi.
Thanks a lot. And U.S. President Joe Biden has limited the nation's latest mass shooting after 6 people were gunned down at a Walmart store in Chesapeake, Virginia on Tuesday night. The police say the shooter was a 31-year-old Andre Bing, an overnight team lead employed in Walmart since 2010. Simon Pusey has more.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Officials say they believe a Walmart employee is responsible for killing at least 7 people and injuring many more in a shooting in the US state of Virginia. A man believed to be the store manager is thought to have opened fire, then turned the gun on himself. The attacker's motive remains unclear. Chesapeake Mayor Rick West said the town is devastated by the senseless violence that took place. Investigations are continuing to determine what happened.
4 victims are in area hospitals with conditions unknown at this time. And the suspect is dead from what we believe was a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
The whole of Ukraine's western city of Lviv is without power after widespread strikes were reported across Ukraine, including in the capital, Kyiv. Lviv's mayor, Andriy Sadovy, urged people to take shelter, saying the whole city is without power. Meanwhile, emergency services say a newborn baby has been killed in a Russian missile strike on a maternity unit in Ukraine's southern Zaporizhia region. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of bringing terror and murder to his country. Israeli police say a 16-year-old boy has been killed and 14 other people have been wounded in 2 suspected bomb attacks at bus stops in Jerusalem. The explosions happened at 2 busy areas on the outskirts of the city as people were heading to work. Israel's internal security minister said at one scene that this was an attack we haven't seen in a long time. Palestinian gun and knife attacks have targeted Israelis, and Israeli military raids have killed Palestinian gunmen and civilians in the occupied West Bank. Protests have erupted at the world's biggest iPhone factory in the Chinese city of Zhengzhou. That's according to footage circulated widely online. Videos show hundreds of workers marching, with some confronted by people in hazmat suits and riot police. Those live streaming the protests said workers had been beaten by police. Manufacturer Foxconn said it would work with the staff and local government to prevent further violence. In its statement, the firm said some workers had doubts about pay, but that the firm would fulfill pay based on contracts. The remarkable moment a 5-year-old boy was pulled alive from rubble in Indonesia after 3 days has been caught on camera. Rescuers pulled Azka from the rubble in the earthquake-struck town of Cianjur on Wednesday. In a video of the rescue posted by a local fire department, the young boy appeared conscious and calm as he was lifted to safety. The Supreme Court has ruled that the Scottish Government cannot hold an independence referendum without the UK Government's consent.
the Scottish Parliament does not have the power to legislate for a referendum on Scottish independence.
First Minister Nicola Sturgeon wanted to hold a referendum on the 19th of October next year, but the court ruled unanimously that she does not have the power to do so. The UK government has so far refused to grant the formal consent for a vote that was in place before the referendum in 2014. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak welcomed the verdict.
We respect the clear and definitive ruling of the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. And what I would say to the honourable gentleman, firstly, I am looking forward to also seeing the moderator of Scotland tomorrow. And I think that the people of Scotland want us to be working on fixing the major challenges that we collectively face, whether that's the economy, supporting the NHS, or indeed supporting Ukraine. Now is the time for politicians to work together, and that's what this government will do.
And South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has visited the Royal Botanic Gardens with Britain's Prince Edward on the second day of his state visit to the UK. Ramaphosa and Edward toured the gardens in Kew in London and listened to talks about plants.
It's particularly important for plants like aloes that are traded.
The visit came as Britain and South Africa announced a new health and science partnership covering vaccine manufacturing, genome sequencing, climate change and other areas. Ramaphosa later met Rishi Sunak to attend a UK-South Africa business forum to discuss trade and investment. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. The 13th edition of the Nigeria Police Games Open has been declared open by President Muhammadu Buhari at the Nest of Champions Stadium in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. Over 4,000 athletes will compete in 30 sporting events at the biennial competition, which will last for 1 week. Speaking at the event, the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Udom Emmanuel, promises continued support to the Nigeria Police and other security agencies while reiterating his administration's commitment to the development of sports. Spain have restored some sort of order at the FIFA World Cup by thrashing Costa Rica 7-0 for their biggest win ever, which now launches the bid to lift a second title. With Dani Olmo and Marco Asensio scored their first 2 goals, with Ferran Torres adding a brace. Barca midfielder Gavi, the youngest player to play for Spain at the World Cup at 18 years and 110 days old, then became the youngest scorer in the competition since Pelé in 1958 with a sublime volleyed finish from Alvaro Morata's pass. And the Blue Samurai of Japan have stunned Germany with a late comeback in their World Cup opener with goals from Ritzy Doan and Takuma Asano, seeing them win 2-1 at the Khalifa International Stadium. Well, Japan had never previously beaten their European opponents, but they capitalized on German errors and missed chances to secure a famous victory in the first game of Group E. And that's Sports News.
Thanks, Ayatunde. And the main news again. Large crowd of supporters today received the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi in Ibadan. The Oyo State capital as his campaign train stopped over in the ancient city. Afenifere leader Pa Ayo Adebanjo at the event reiterated his stance on rotational presidency. And on a programming note, we'll continue with the opening ceremony of the Nigeria Police Games, which was taken earlier in the day, but only on the DSTV platform. Good night, everyone. I'm Amarachi Ubani.